shopping vintage. Hello and welcome back to the Roman Co. I'm Rebecca and today we're going to explore a vintage pop-up. So there's a vintage pop-up in North Park, which is a neighborhood of San Diego. I've never been. I don't know what I'm going to find, but you know, that's kind of the exciting thing about it. Also, it is 82 degrees here in San Diego, so it's pretty hot. But you know, I'm just gonna push through it. I believe this venue is indoors, but I'm not sure. What is on my list? I mean, pretty much the same thing. I am interested in finding a slip dress, maybe some skirts, especially as we approach spring because it is so hot here. My mind is already in spring and summer wardrobe. Always looking for vintage jewelry. I'm also thinking of some accessories, maybe a chain belt, any cool accessory. Always bring a beverage to stay hydrated. I'm bringing my own bag to carry all of my stuff in, and also a tape measure. Now I keep forgetting to bring this. This is really good to have on hand if you are not able to try on the vintage piece, but you do want to check the measurement of the garment. Are you ready to shop vintage with me?
I arrived at the market around noon and it was already pretty packed. One thing I noticed is that a lot of corsets and slips were highlighted. I didn't see a lot of older vintage, but I did see some pieces, like this two-piece set that's denim and leather combo, so good, and this really cute little winter jacket. There also wasn't a lot of houseware, but I did find one booth that had home goods, a little bit of jewelry, and some clothes. This market had a combination of vintage, which it was mostly vintage, and makers.
Okay, time to share what I got. I didn't get a lot of things, but I really like what I did get. I got this very sheer animal print duster. I wear dusters a lot. I wear them over things like jeans. I wear them over dresses, skirts, really anything. So to me, this really spoke to me. I don't wear a lot of animal print, but I do like to wear it when I go out. Also too, I'm really starting to experiment with my prints. So I thought this was a great addition for when I go out and I'm wearing all black. This is a nice touch. I would love to pair this with neutrals and maybe even pops of color. I also love that it's sheer, and sheer is trending for spring this year. So I thought this was such a great addition to my wardrobe. I will wear this a lot and I will wear it for years. So I'm absolutely loving this. I can style it in multiple ways. I can dress it down, I can dress it up. I didn't get very much, but this was one of the pieces that stood out to me. I also got this Cameo necklace, which I thought was absolutely great. It has a mirror on the other side, just in case, you know, you wanted to check to see if you have anything in your teeth or check your makeup, whatever. But I thought this was such a great statement necklace. It's from the 70s. I thought it would be so good just paired with either some smaller chains or maybe a pearl choker, but just layered with some sort of, you know, top or dress, especially because, again, I'm in Zoom meetings all day. So it's nice to have a little bit of embellishment in the upper half of my body. So many ways to style this, so many ways to wear it. These statement pieces are very timeless. I wanted to share my thoughts on the vintage market. So for starters, this market is called the Lucky Stars Vintage Market, and it takes place in North Park, a neighborhood here in San Diego. I believe it's a fairly new vintage market pop-up. I don't know how often it happens. There was no entry fee to get in. And I do love that there are a lot more vintage markets popping up everywhere here in San Diego. Vintage markets are always so fun to explore. You never know what you're gonna find, whose booth you're going to love the curation of and start following them. How to find vintage markets. Okay, so I've looked on Instagram, so I'll just look up San Diego vintage markets. Also too, Eventbrite is a really good app to use to find any of the local vintage markets that are popping up in your area. Okay, now reviews on this specific vintage market. It was in North Park and there's not a lot of places to park there. So finding a parking spot was crazy. Also, you had to park very far away and walk to the market, and it was an extremely hot day. The other thing that I noticed, it was overly crowded. There was a lot of people there, and so many in fact that the booths weren't big enough to where multiple people could fit in the booth at once. You had to kind of stand in a line and then wait your turn to go around the booth or inside the booth, which I found a little, wasn't really my jam. I'm not a big crowds person, and this one definitely was way crowded than the other markets that I've been to. Also, the booths were a little bit more compacted. It also made it a little more challenging to find out who the seller was compared to the people who were shopping. You really had to look around and watch for a minute before you can identify someone to ask about a price, ask about the piece, anything like that. I also noticed that there was a lot of 90s vintage there, and not a lot of any other decade. There was a few 70s, few 50s, 60s, but not a lot. Like, those were gems that you had to dig deep for and search. I've noticed this at a few other pop-ups that I've been to that I haven't really, recorded, is that there's a lot of 90s fashion. The one thing I would say to that is I feel like I can find those things in thrift stores for a little cheaper. But again, I believe everybody's buying out the 90s fashion in thrift stores so they can sell them for more money as vintage. But I digress. That is it. Again, only 2 pieces, but I want to be very selective about what I'm bringing into my wardrobe, especially as I explore more of these new vintage markets that keep popping up. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, or you can hit me up on Instagram at therealm.co. If you like this video and want to see more, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. I always appreciate the support. I try to have new videos coming out every Friday. Until next time, wear what you love.